On today's episode of The Unwritten Rule, we have a couple recruiting updates for Mizzou football. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We also have the game time for the Tennessee game, so we'll touch on that. And then a quick hit about Hodge as well for the Lakers. He got in, played some minutes. So we'll have just a couple brief Mizzou updates for you guys. We had the big Georgia recap yesterday. Not too much going on, but we do have a fun third segment, which I'll get to in a second. But we're going to do quick hits with Ken's sports shorts. So that'll be good. Best beats of the week, dirty birds of the weekend. And then we'll have our NFL fraud rankings, our ratio of the week. And then third segment, it's basketball season. Mizzou plays tomorrow against Arkansas Pine Bluff. So we're going to do a little preview of that game. Talk about, what we're expecting a little bit more from Mizzou basketball. I know we did that preview with Drew a little while back, but we'll have that for you guys. We're going to do that kind of going forward, just previewing a bunch of basketball games. It's in full swing. I'm so excited for Dennis Gates and company to be back. But yeah, so we'll have that to end off the show. It's a great one for you guys. So the Unwritten Rule is presented by Bet Online. The last of the major pro sports leagues is off and rolling, and college basketball is ready to go as well. I just said that. Mizzou's back. I'm so excited for college basketball, and Bet Online remains your top spot for all your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL, and college basketball all in full swing. And BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions. All of the hoops betting action, along with every sport, is available at your fingertips with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today, and to remember to use our promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV, BELIEVE, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts, and the Unwritten Rule starts right now.
Marcel, where are you going with that disc? You are not putting that on again. Marcel, okay, if you press that button, you are in very, very big trouble.
Attention. Everybody stop what you're doing. It's time for The Unwritten Rule, a Mizzou sports podcast brought to you by the Believe Network, alongside Payton Haverman and Kenny Van Doren. Here is your host, Jack Knowlton.
Welcome back to the Unwritten Rule. Today is Monday, November 6th, and Eli Drinkwitz is trying to steal every single recruit possible after he lost Ryan Wingo, it would seem. We have some quick Mizzou football recruiting updates because, yeah, he's still getting busy and maybe taking that. We know he tweeted the STP thing right after they lost out on Wingo and how wild that commitment was. We won't bore everyone to death with diving back into that. I think we probably talked that topic about enough. But with that said, he's going after a couple of guys, and Kenny and Payton, we should talk about them because there was a crystal ball recently put in for a one Mr. Courtney Crutchfield, who decommitted from Arkansas, the class of 2024 Pine Bluff wide receiver, 4-star prospect there. So what's kind of the status with Mizzou with Mr. Crutchfield?
Yeah, as always, it looks like Arkansas players are finally recognizing which side of the border is better. This is Courtney Crutchfield. He's a 4-star wide receiver. Depending on who you look, this guy's number 56 on 247. So pretty good prospect there. He decommitted from Arkansas on Saturday and immediately picked up a crystal ball to Mizzou. We know he goes to Pine Bluff. Fellow commit Austin Dendy goes there, as well as Jordan Harris, a current Mizzou player. He went to Pine Bluff just last year. Kenny, obviously the residential Jordan Harris expert. So it does appear Drinkwitz is not taking the Georgia loss or the Ryan Wingo loss well. And maybe this will come to fruition. It would certainly be a nice addition. Kind of indicates to me that Mizzou is not really giving Ryan Wingo a lot of the time of day. I don't think you make this kind of play for someone of that, because you got to think there's some NIL at play there. Maybe reallocating some of those funds you had stored for Wingo. And yeah, I mean, Courtney Crutchfield, Cameron Crutchfield, sorry. He's not a Ryan Wingo level player, at least from the recruiting services rankings, but good player. If you can pick up 3 or 4 good players with what you were going to give for Wingo, I think that's pretty solid.
You said it right the first time. It is Courtney, not
It is
Cameron.
Courtney.
And it is Courtney.
I learned who this guy was today. So
I think a lot of people did.
Putting assets, putting funds elsewhere, resources that you had available to go to other players, and I texted with you guys. It feels like rage recruiting. You missed out on the big wide receiver that you were really expecting to get. You had put a lot of effort towards, and now it looks like the little brother teams are kind of taking the hits from it. Guys, you were going to mention another guy here in a second, but Arkansas doesn't have the best track record against Missouri, and since they in the last 5-6 years. And now Mizzou is going after one of their guys that they just lost to decommitment. And the one thing that just really stands out to me, and the games don't always matter, but we talked about the Arkansas game. The offense might be a little fired up after they lost their OC this past week, end up beating Florida. Arkansas wins, Mizzou loses. Arkansas loses a recruit. Mizzou may gain a recruit. Overall, pretty cool pickup. And the Pine Bluff pipeline is growing, and Al Davis, the interior defensive line coach, has those connections to Arkansas. This is huge. I mean, I've been to Pine Bluff before. I've been to the high school. I didn't know it was producing like such high end players, because it looks a little bit smaller. It's not in the biggest town, but there's some athletes there. There's some players there. We talked about Jordan Harris, who wasn't even a football player to start off in his high school career. He was a basketball player. He played basketball all the way through, but got late into football. They must have a really strong program there. And I do have connections there. My mom lived there for a year, so I guess I could be your resident Pine Bluff expert.
Kenny's all in on the Pine Bluff. We're going to keep talking about him with basketball, because Mizzou men's basketball plays them for the first game of the year. So yeah, it's a big Pine Bluff podcast, but yeah, the pipeline is growing. Number 2 player in Arkansas, according to On3, 4-star wideout, Courtney Crutchfield. So yeah, definitely a name to keep an eye on. And then the other guy, we're going to go over to Tennessee, Ensworth High School. Jaren Sensabaugh picked up an offer as well from Missouri. He is a Vanderbilt commit, guys, but the number 24 player I'm looking here on Rivals, 3-star recruit for the cornerback out of Ensworth, Jaren Sensabaugh. What's the scoop with him there?
I mean, I don't think we know anything other than been offered. He's still a Vandy commit. Mizzou's got a lot of flipping. Kenny's mentioned it a lot. Drink loves what he calls flip miss. And Mizzou is currently, I mean, let's face it, it's the worst recruiting class in the SEC right now. So Drink is going to have to work extra hard to pull it up out of that. He's going to try and flip some of these guys. And you know what? If Mizzou finishes 10-2, 9-3, gets a nice bowl game, I would think he's going to flip a lot of these. I really would be very, very surprised if Mizzou winds up finishing 16th in the SEC. Jaren Sensabaugh, he, as you mentioned, committed to Vanderbilt. But as Kenny said, it's time for Mizzou to start kind of like separating themselves in the middle of the SEC. It's time to take some players from these little brother schools like Vanderbilt, like Arkansas. No disrespect to Vanderbilt, full disrespect to Arkansas. But you should be out recruiting those schools. You're the better program.
We talked about this last week, too. After Cam Dooley decommitted, the Tigers fell to 16th in the SEC for next year. And of course, the program isn't looking at those rankings. That's not what they're basing all their decisions off. They're going after the best guys they see as the best. And some of those best guys are ranked high. Some of them might be just 3 stars, and they still see a lot of talent, a lot of future in them. But it is also interesting that there have been some little like tiny battles between Mizzou and Vanderbilt recently. You look at Jordan Harris, who his final 2 were Vanderbilt and Mizzou. Mizzou wins out on that one. And then a running back not too long ago, Johan Cardenas, who's from the same high school I went to in Houston, St. Thomas, and the 4-star running back ended up with he committed to Vanderbilt in the class of 2024. We don't know if Jaren Sensabaugh is really considering the Tigers and if that happens in any way, but seems like another little battle between the 2 schools.
Yeah, definitely.
I want to throw this out too.
Yeah.
I mean, Vanderbilt, we said going into the year, we thought Vanderbilt was going to be improved. We thought Clark Lee was the guy to turn this around. That really has not happened this year. I don't know the status of Clark Lee. I don't know if he could be gone after this season or not. I would probably guess not, but it is worth noting. I mean, if there's a coaching change, which I kind of don't think would be smart on Vanderbilt's part, guys are going to decommit. Like, you can go after and maybe poach Jaren Sensabaugh. Maybe even Johan Cardenas can be flipped. I mean, you really just don't know how it all could shake out. It, like we've said a million times, I mean, Drink loves flipping people. It's kind of a sick thing for him to love so much, just stealing recruits. I mean, the Wake Forest story with that D lineman last year, how Drinkwitz said he had to like hide his excitement that he was going to flip the D lineman from Wake Forest to Mizzou on signing day before the bowl game. I mean, that's just who Drinkwitz is.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, Kenny, your rage recruiting bit could catch on too. That seems like I think that's a good mentality to describe maybe what Drinkwitz is doing since missing out on Wingo. And maybe, I know you said they don't really look at those numbers, but it's got to be in the back of a guy like Drinkwitz's mind when recruiting's so important to him. He doesn't want to be last in his conference. And like Payton said, he wants to steal some of those, like outperform some of those other teams in the middle of the pack in the SEC and set yourself apart. And yeah, so I think he probably has a slight eye on those numbers. And, he's clearly trying to make moves at least to do that. So yeah, Jaren Sensabaugh, the cornerback, we'll see what happens with his situation.
I didn't say that D lineman that Mizzou flipped last year's name. It was Sam Williams, the Wake Forest commit.
We've mentioned this before, but there wasn't really much steam behind it either.
Nope.
Based on Twitter posts, message boards, we weren't really following it. And then out of nowhere, the school posted that he was committing to Mizzou, and we're like, "Whoa, okay, well, there's the guy Drinkwitz is talking about," because he was verbally committed to Wake Forest beforehand, and he ended up signing with the Tigers.
There you go. So Flipmas, we're in Flipmas season. In November feels fitting. But yeah, some stuff to keep an eye on for recruiting. Other just quick hit football wise, we got the schedule. I know Payton mentioned it last week that we weren't going to know because of the whole, they like flex it and stuff.
But Mizzou is,
the 6-day window. But Mizzou is staying on CBS. They were on CBS for the Georgia game, and they got the 2:30 CBS kickoff for their matchup against Tennessee. I don't know if you guys have any quick things on that, but Payton, I do want to ask you, because I think it's a fair place to start getting into this fun speculation with obviously the Georgia loss, the hopes of like the playoff SEC championship get kind of dashed. And I know you are a very big bowl game guy and like to check where Mizzou is projected to go to bowl games. So if you don't mind, a quick update from you also on where you saw Mizzou getting projected to bowls after last week.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously it stings to lose that game, but I think what you've seen kind of with the fallout from that game, Mizzou has gotten a lot of respect just for even going blow for blow with Georgia like that. I mean, if Mizzou got blown out yesterday, they aren't getting the CBS slot. It's Nestler and Danielson calling the game next week. This is the last season the SEC is ever going to be on CBS, and they chose Mizzou and Tennessee for that slot over LSU, Florida, and that means something. That's certainly not a nothing burger. As far as the bowl games, even the bowl projections, from what I saw, Mizzou got a little more respect. CBS, who the last few weeks they had been in the Music City Bowl against Maryland for the most part, they got moved up to a more fun, I think, matchup against UNC in the Gator Bowl. And then two places, ESPN, one of their writers, they had them in the Liberty Bowl against Kansas State because they have two writers that pick them, and that won't happen. They're not. You don't do rematches in bowl games like that. And the other one had Mizzou in the Citrus Bowl against Iowa. Citrus Bowl is probably as good as Mizzou can really hope for because New Year's Six seems very unlikely, I still think, just because it's so jam-packed at the top. 247 also had Mizzou in the Citrus against Iowa, Knowlton's Sicko team that he likes to bet on. So that would be those the matchups I saw today would be very good for Mizzou. UNC in the Gator Bowl would be a fun one. And Iowa, the Citrus Bowl is a big deal. I mean, that's a good bowl game.
Yeah.
My only thing I want to throw out there just about, not even just like the bowl games, but looking at this time, another 2:30 game must be a great feeling. Just as a Missouri fan, just, these players as well, you're getting the spotlight, and it's just a year after, 2 years after, battling the 11 a.m. kickoffs. There's a threshold on how many you can have each season, and the Tigers were always pushing the threshold, pushing that, the maximum number of 11 a.m. kickoffs you can have. We went at length talking about that with Corey from Believe in Dogs, because Georgia's always getting the 2:30 or one of the big spotlight games on ESPN or CBS. This is a good feeling to have, have the eyes on you. And it does kind of sting that SEC Nation's not coming to this game either. SEC Nation chose number 8 Alabama against Kentucky, which, ridiculous. I mean, Kentucky's not this team that a lot of people expected them to be. Of course, they hit big in the portal. It didn't turn out well. And you're missing out on 2 ranked teams. The CFP hasn't come out yet, the poll, when we're recording this, but we know that both Tennessee and Missouri will be in the top 25. And it's kind of ridiculous. It's just one of those things where Desiree has even said before to that crew, to Paul Feinbaum, you guys need to come back. And they're just not. This is a perfect time to come back again.
They did come back. I think we.
I know. I'm saying one more time.
But
yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think it's ridiculous that a game that, Alabama, I'd be surprised if they didn't win that game by 15 plus. That gets the spotlight over what's essentially a pick'em between Mizzou and Tennessee. I think it's a little ridiculous that's not the game. I'm not one to really complain about stuff like this, really, but I do think Mizzou has earned that modicum of respect, I'd say. Whatever, man. It is what it is. The team motto is something to prove. And I don't think a program has ever fit their team motto better than Mizzou in something.
Do you think they would do it, if they, at this point in the year, like, would they do it for Arkansas, maybe take it to Fayetteville, or because that game isn't in Columbia,
I think it's also a Friday game.
It's also a Friday.
Oh, that's
so
right.
Yeah, no,
that's right. You're right.
They wouldn't do that. The
Friday.
last chance would maybe be, even if Florida loses this week and drops to 5-5, I still think you're probably that would be the last chance for Mizzou to get it.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. So I agree. I mean, that I thought that was a little bit ridiculous. I'm
pulling up these Week 12 games as well when the Tigers play Florida. Honestly, that might be the game that they come.
Isn't that the Cupcake Week?
That's
games?
Cupcake
Week. It is Cupcake Week. So
the only other SEC. Oh, never mind. There's Georgia, Tennessee. That might be the game.
That'll probably get it.
Have they been there before?
Have they been to Tennessee this year? I don't know. I don't follow before.
No,
I don't even watch SEC Nation.
We're letting them get in our heads. We don't. It's something to prove. It's something to prove.
We don't even watch SEC Nation, so I don't know. It's just something we had to mention.
It was fun. It was fun. It was fun when it's fun for the kids that go, and that like to make the signs and come out, and there's a reason that stuff is good for, and putting the campus on blast. So yeah, it does suck that they get snubbed for that. And just for the sake of, a good game, to have hyping up, while you're doing that program, but whatever. They ultimately chose Bama, Kentucky at Kroger, which should be a blowout. If it's not, I'm in trouble. But anyway, Mizzou gets a 2:30 game against Tennessee. And then last thing before we switch over to quick hits is kind of a quick hit in of itself because he didn't do much, but round of applause for Demoy Hodge. He made his NBA debut with the Lakers on Saturday. He played, I believe, 4 minutes. Good job, Demoy. As the Lakers lost by 19 to the Orlando Magic. So couldn't help his team make a comeback. Didn't really do much. Hopefully, he gets in a game soon where he has more stats, but nice to see him playing. We've seen Kobe for the Clippers get a few minutes. Now he gets to be in the funniest NBA team of all time with James Harden there now. But there you go. Congrats to Mr. Demoy Hodge. We'll have more Mizzou men's basketball for the third segment of the show, but we're going to switch over to quick hits. Kenny will start with his sports shorts. But yeah, again, summarizing all that Eli Drinkwitz is Rage recruiting. Mizzou got the 2:30 kickoff, and congrats to Des Moines. And with that, we will segue over and do quick hits. Okay, quick hits time. Kenny, start us out. Ken's sports shorts.
For Ken's sports shorts this week, I'm going to give you 5 hints. And you're going to have to guess this former Mizzou football player. I'm going to go down the list and give you
TJ Moe.
one by one. Who did you say?
TJ Moe.
Oh my God.
It's not TJ Moe. No.
Oh my God.
So I'll go down the list and it'll get a little bit easier each time.
Tucker
and you
McCann.
guys- God dang it, I gotta change it now. It was actually Tucker McCann.
Oh my.
No way. It wasn't really, was it?
Yeah, I have Tucker McCann open up from the 2019 roster. I have him opened up right here.
That means you got to think of 5 hints right away, too. Well, this is really good podcasting.
Okay, I got a new one.
Is
Okay.
Ready?
Roster?
What?
I want to do it again.
He's not from the 2019 roster, no.
Justin Britt.
No, he is from the 2019 roster.
Okay.
But
Marcus
that won't. Not
Okay,
Marcus.
let's let him go.
Stop guessing. Please stop. I'm trying to do my own thing. Okay, we're gonna go right here.
I'm trying to do my thing.
This player entered the transfer portal after
Christian
the
Holmes.
2022 season. No. Jack?
After the 2022 season, you said?
Yes.
I
BJ
think I know
Harris.
who it is.
No.
I
This
think I-
player, before they entered the transfer portal, was no longer a starter for the Mizzou Tigers.
Is it Trajan Jeffcoat?
Is not Trajan Diffcoat.
Oh, man.
Jack?
He was no longer a starter. So he started in the 2022 season but lost his job.
No. So he started prior to the 2022 season, but
I
didn't
got
start
it.
in his final season.
Oh, Payton has it.
Devin
Tyler
Nicholson.
No, and you also don't get another guess. You have to guess after each hint.
Oh, is
Yeah.
this after one? Okay.
Yeah.
Let him do his thing.
My third hint is that he
Feel
was on the
so bad.
offensive line.
Luke Griffin?
It is Luke Griffin.
Oh,
Luke Griffin transferred to
Armed
Purdue.
Forces Bowl starter Luke Griffin.
I was very excited to do this. I was thinking about Tucker McCann all day. Had the
I'm
link
so
open on
sorry.
my Google all day.
You should have picked a kicker.
I
What were
love
your
Tucker
hints going to
McCann.
be?
I love Tucker
Not
McCann
good
too.
When we were there.
He wore number 19 in his final season at Mizzou. He played 4 years on special teams.
I would have got it after.
I
19.
think we would have
19.
gotten that one big pick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That McKinsky's a kicker, Kenny.
I know. You also
Kicker-
really liked
kicker
him,
guy.
Jack. I'll always remember that.
Yeah. Tucker for president. If anyone saw that sign, that was me. No one saw the sign. Best beats of the week, Kenny.
Best piece of the week, current
Sorry, I
records.
stole your segment.
Jack, you're back, tied for first place with Payton at 19 and 15. The under of
Boom.
Iowa versus Northwestern at 31 points hit. You hammered it. That was awesome.
Sicko.
You were the only one who got their bet this week. Bowling Green did beat Ball State, but not by more than 6 points. Payton, Arkansas ended up beating Florida, so you were at 19 and 15, tied with Jack at the top, and I'm just one game behind you guys. But this week, let's keep it with some more Mizzou ties. Travion Ford, former Mizzou defensive lineman, is now at Toledo. He's not playing as much every day, playing a lot more than he did with the Tigers.
I
But
wonder
Toledo's
why.
favored by 19 points against Eastern Michigan.
They're
There are
really
two
good.
guys. They are very good. Toledo's very good. And in my mind right now, I'm thinking of 2 former Mizzou athletes that ended up at Eastern Michigan. Can you name them?
Amani
Taylor
Bates.
Powell
Taylor Powell,
and
football or basketball player.
Marcellus. Axel Okongo.
Axel Congo went to Eastern Michigan.
Mhm.
Did he play with Amani Bates?
No, I don't think he was on the team
Okay.
last year. I think it was
They
out
missed.
of
They missed each other. He's the only Eastern Michigan athlete I could name, and he's not there anymore.
Well, Maction has ruined my life before, and it's probably going to get ruined again because that's a lot of points for Toledo to cover in a midweek game.
I did in our top 25 rankings. I believe I ranked Toledo in our little friend group. So I
They
believe
were-
in the Rockets.
They were in my hunt. I did not rank them though. But I'll stick with the Mizzou ties. Former Mizzou basketball opponent, Liberty, They have a very good football team this year. They're 9-0. I don't believe any former Mizzou players are on Liberty. They're taking on Old Dominion. Liberty is also ranked number 25 in the AP poll. This, of course, being recorded before the CFP. They probably won't be ranked in the CFP. But I got them by 13 over Old Dominion. Old Dominion's lousy. Liberty very well could go 12-0. So I'll take the Flames.
Yeah, good bet. I'm sorry I don't have any Mizzou ties in my game, but that's because, like Kenny said, I got to keep it rolling. I'm now 2 for 2 on my Sicko Big Ten football bets with Iowa, and I got to keep the
Big Ten, Sicko, Iowa.
Sicko, specifically just Sicko, Iowa. I got to keep it rolling. They're playing Rutgers this weekend in Kinnick. The over-under is 29.5. Give me the under. I'm hammering the under. This will be a big test. Rutgers is a little bit of an interesting team. They were hanging with Ohio State for a bit there last week, but I got to stick with my unders until it fails. Like Kenny said, it's gotten me to tied for first. I can't stop riding it out now. Give me the under in the Hawkeyes Scarlet Knights game.
Boring and bland, just like the Iowa offense. Wouldn't have it any other way.
Precisely.
Speaking of birds, let's go into our dirty birds of the weekend now. Mine we got to dip our feet into the NFL here. Baltimore Ravens steamrolled the Seattle Seahawks. Lamar Jackson continues his dominance against NFC teams, 37-3. And my dirty bird goes to Pete Carroll and the Seahawks. Geno Smith completed 13 passes for 157 yards, no touchdowns, of course, and he had an interception. Drew Lock didn't get in there, and I think that's my dirty bird. Allow Drew Lock to get in there and let him mix in. The Seahawks team has a chance to win the West at the moment with the 49ers on a little bit of a skid. But I think they also have a chance of just making the playoffs outright, and I think Drew Lock could lead them there.
I agree with you. The fact that Drew Lock did not get into this game is disgusting. Even DeJounte Murray, another bird, the Atlanta Hawk, calling for Drew Lock's, what would you call it, insertion into the game.
Appearance.
Appearance in the game. But it's not going to happen. Seattle's too solid right now for them to really risk a quarterback change like that. So I wouldn't hold my breath. But Knowlton, do you have anything to say? It's your team.
I wanted to see Drew Lock in this game. It was very hard watch. I saw this coming though. Everyone got way too high on the Seahawks, and I knew they were going to have a meltdown when all the expectations were finally on them. So I'm glad they're back. Hopefully it was so bad that everyone switches back off of them and they can just kind of coast. But this is a bad win. This is a very bad win. I agree with Payton that it's probably good for morale to keep Geno out there, but we all would have loved to see Drew Lock. He's on a spaceship. It was so hype when he got into the game earlier this season. But Lamar Jackson is 17-1 against the NFC. It's a problem. If they he's ridiculous. I don't have any other words. It was a terrible game. I was very sad today.
Yeah, no,
Payton?
I get it there, man. But moving on, my dirty bird, Atlanta Falcons. Goodness gracious, what a joke of a game this was. Heineke was the starter. It appeared the Falcons were coasting to a victory, but Josh Dobbs, who they traded for last week, another former Bird Cardinal, they lost today too, behind Clayton too. They did not. I mean, he was not even supposed to play. It was Jaren Hall who started for them. I mean, but I can't talk. Josh Dobbs did not even know the full names of his players. He said he didn't have.
Oh my God!
Literally, when Kevin O'Connell was calling the plays for him, because Jaren Hall got a concussion, he was out for the game. Kevin O'Connell was literally explaining how the play worked to Josh Dobbs as he was calling them.
It's like Ask Madden.
Josh Dobbs led the Vikings back, got a last-minute touchdown, 31-28. The Vikings win. Good for Josh Dobbs, man. I mean, there's a good video of him getting hyped up by his teammates that he barely knows in the locker room. So, the Falcons are my dirty bird.
Mizzou tie in that game, Caleb Evans getting the win with the Vikings, along with his teammate, who hopefully now he knows his name. Josh Dobbs does, but that's wild. I didn't know all that about like how he called the plays and like the names and stuff. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
My dirty bird of the week. I really struggled to get a bird tie in here. However, like Kenny was trying to do with his Mizzou ties in his bet, I wanted to shout out another former Missouri player, Elijah Young, the former running back, is making the UTEP Miners the dirty bird of the week because he absolutely dusted them on the ground for Western Kentucky. He's with the Hilltoppers, the team with the coolest helmets in football. They did the by position with their mascot a couple of weeks back, which was dope. But yeah, Elijah Young, 12 carries, 139 yards, and 2 touchdowns. His touchdowns and rushing yards totals were a career high against UTEP. So good to see Elijah Young. Of course, was with the Tigers. I forget. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on when. Help me out here.
Last year.
Yeah,
It was just last year.
Yeah.
Even there you go. And now he transferred, and yeah, glad to see he's doing well. Good for him.
I never will understand what went wrong. Like, just I don't know. Elijah Young, I think, was always very, very efficient when he got the ball. I get he wasn't a great pass blocker, I guess. Maybe Drinkwitz likes that out of his running backs, but when you have a situation where Mizzou knows they kind of need to get more out of the running backs that aren't Cody Schrader, like they every week they say, yeah, we need to get more running backs involved, and then it just doesn't happen. Someone like Elijah Young could have been a very nice change of pace back, but ultimately it's not a huge deal. Cody Schrader has been great this year, but I'm glad Elijah Young found a good home.
Elijah Young always felt like a guy that had, a couple different modes almost too. He could have caught some passes out of the backfield. He was, he put his head down, he'd run. I didn't really see much action from him necessarily, especially in this last season. I think it's one of his last games he played was against Tennessee, where he's from. He's from Knoxville. I actually had a fun feature story I wrote about him for the Columbia Missourian with his former coach, Clark Duncan. And one of his quotes that he told me is like, he only has one speed. He's always only at one speed. That's full tilt. Like he just runs with his head down. He'll run through people. That's all he cares about. He just loved football. He was one of the best players in the state of Tennessee when he signed with Mizzou. He won Mr. Tennessee for his class, and pretty incredible high school career. Just never really translated with the Tigers.
Yeah, good for him then that he's doing so well. Hilltopper's got a gem. I think this makes me think of something we should maybe do. We always talk about all these postseason awards. There's so many of them that Mizzou should win. I think, boys, we should come up with the best Mizzou transfer award, and we maybe have a couple nominees for the best guy that left Mizzou, and however based on his season from where they are now. I have my nominee right now. It'd be Jay Macklin, but
it would have to be Jay Macklin. I think
he might be the leader for it. But anyway, something to consider. I think we should do that as an end.
How is Gavin McKay doing at Mercer? Anybody know?
Gavin McKay's at Mercer?
Didn't know that at all.
What?
Gavin McKay is at Mercer. I know Devin Nicholson and Jelani Williams went to Kent State. That can't be going too well. They're a lousy.
Yeah, they're
team.
bad.
Travion Ford we touched on earlier. Went to Toledo. Tyler Macon went to Alcorn. I don't even think he's the starter down there, unfortunately.
He's not. He lost the job in week 1.
Yeah. So
Connor Bazelak?
He's
got mine.
Still kicking at Bowling Green.
Another guy who actually could have maybe been an argument for it before he got hurt was Ryan Wingo with LSU.
Oh well, I guess we'll never
know. Dominic Lovett.
Gavin McKay has 3 receptions for 26 yards at Mercer.
Okay, so I think we can take his name out of the hat.
Mercer's 7-3.
Hey, there you go.
Wow.
Okay. Connor Bazelak threw a whopping 128 yards last week. So.
Hey, that was almost more than the Iowa and Northwestern quarterbacks combined. So give him some respect. It's 2 Power 5 schools. All right. Kenny, you ready?
I guess I am.
Uh-oh. What time is it? What time is it?
It's 9 o'clock.
Oh!
Welcome to this week's NFL Fraud Rankings, recording here on a Sunday. There's still some action going on, so the Buffalo Bills, they might be on fraud watch, down 21-7 here at halftime. But we're looking at number 5 in this week's Fraud Rankings. We're going to throw it over to our good friend Jack Knowlton in the sunglasses, talk about the Green Bay Packers.
Go Pack, go. More like no Pack, no. They did win today, but it took Brett Rippon?
Brett Rippon?
Who is that?
The son of Mark
Packers.
Rippon?
They're such a stinky franchise. They're in the mud without a good quarterback. Jordan Love, more like Jordan Dud. No Pack, no. They're fraud ranking number 5.
Ripping off fraudulent wins of the Packers. See what I did there? Coming in at number 4. Pretty easily one here. Might get myself some Will Levis jeans. Because this guy probably shouldn't have a job anymore. The Titans coming in at number 4 in the fraud rankings. Will Levis couldn't close it out. Although it was only his second game of his NFL career, the Steelers walk away with a 20-16 win on Thursday night. Coming in at number 3, they had to be in here somewhere. Whoever lost this game was going to be in here. The boys, the Dallas Cowboys, America's team, losing 28-23 on the road at Philadelphia. Dak Prescott had a big day, 29 completions, 374 yards, 3 touchdowns. Outdueled Jalen Hurts, but Jalen Hurts walks away with the win with his defense coming up big.
Somewhere Stephen A. Smith.
On the ball a little more, Dak.
Fraud.
Number 2, another one of those games where whoever lost was going to make it in here. The fraudulent Miami Dolphins cannot pull out another win. They haven't won. They haven't won against an above 500 team.
They became frauds in Frankfurt. The Frankfurt frauds.
Oh, Mr. Mike McDaniel made it all about him this week, having these Guten Tag press conferences. He said the room was really big in Germany. I walked in, I said, wow, what a big room. How about you're a big fraud?
Fraud. The frauds.
Lastly, on the fraud rankings, coming in at number 1 is the Seattle Fraudhawks. Now 5-3 on the season, getting whooped by the Baltimore Ravens, 37-3. Mentioned a little bit earlier. Get Drew Lock in the game.
Re-sign Matt Hasselbeck is what I have to say. That's a real quarterback.
Maybe get an O-line. Please get an O-line. It makes me so angry every week. Fraud. That's all I have to say. That was a sad note to end that on for me, but good fraud rankings. Payton, you got your joke. Ratio, community note. I don't even know what we have this week.
I guess I didn't nominate myself for this, but I am the ratio of the week. So after Mizzou lost very tragically to Georgia, one Mr. Zachary Hayes, a Cardinals fan I follow on Twitter, tweeted, "Did Mizzou fans actually think they were going to win?" I quote that got 1 reply, 2 retweets / quote tweets, 3 likes, and someone replied to that named Ronnie Tomlin with just idiot, and it got 14 likes. I quote tweeted it with did a fan base that saw their team with the ball at midfield down 6 with 9 minutes to go really think they had a chance to win? I got 3 replies, 8 retweets. These are all retweets. I do know that. And 201 likes. Mr. Hayes, I own you.
Oh, he replied to you too.
Yeah, I didn't bother replying. I was upset.
Well, he got ratioed again by that. He said, I wasn't following the game, but like before the game, I feel like was a lot of confidence.
He meant there, but
I know what he meant. I was just, and then someone said least casual. Someone said least casual UGA fan. He said he's an Iowa fan.
Yes, he is an Iowa. Sorry to hear that too.
Yeah, tough. He's just
honestly, I would not want to win 9 games the way Iowa wins 9 games. It seems miserable.
It's good for me.
Yeah,
Sicko.
That's ratio.
Yeah, well done. Good job, Payton. I nominated Payton for this one because it just came across my Twitter feed, and I was like, Jesus, 132 likes. This one poor guy's response. He's not even a Georgia fan, and he had the Mizzou Mafia, Mizzou Nation in his mention. So tough for that guy. But Zachary, lesson learned. Just saying. And with that, we're gonna segue shift back. We're going to talk some Mizzou men's hoops. We got the season starting. We're recording on Sunday. By the time the show comes out, it will be game day for Mizzou men's basketball. So we're going to do a little preview, just talk about the team, talk a little Arkansas Pine Bluff. Kenny's, now our resident Arkansas Pine Bluff expert. We're going to preview that game a little bit in the start of Mizzou men's basketball season. Okay, we're going to finish up the show. We've got I guess it's not even a schedule change, more so that it's basketball season, Kenny and Payton. We got Mizzou men's hoops. We're going to cover it all year long. And we were talking off air, like figuring out, just looking at the season, how we wanted to do previewing games and like recapping games. It kind of works out perfectly. Dennis Gates might have been thinking of our show schedule when he was developing the Mizzou men's basketball schedule, because we got games midweek and then over the weekend. So it's going to be nice for everyone to listen in, especially come conference play. Every game in conference is either on Tuesday or Saturday, with the exception of one Wednesday game. So that'll be great for us. You'll get to show Monday a preview. You'll get a recap of that game and then another preview for Friday. So you've got all the men's basketball coverage you're ever going to need on the Unwritten Rule. But anyway, we got Mizzou and Kenny's, de facto favorite school pipeline, Arkansas Pine Bluff, coming into town. We're not really going to dive into too much on the Golden Lions and what we're expecting. I think just like the Bet Online odds, which has Mizzou as 25.5 point favorites, I think we're expecting a pretty comfortable Mizzou win. So I want to start for you boys. We obviously did the big preview with Drew King, and everyone go check that out if you haven't. It was a great interview. Talked all Mizzou basketball. Especially we kind of speculated, and I really don't think anyone knows like what this lineup is ultimately going to look like. But I want your guys' starting five that you think will be out there for this Arkansas Pine Bluff game tomorrow night.
The five, I think, it really is a lot up in the air, but the five I think Dennis will send out tomorrow night. I know he talked a lot about wanting to play a lot of East and Honor lineups, which I don't think he's going to do right away, but I do think we'll see a heavy dose of. So I'm going to go Honor at the one. I think I'm going to have to go Caleb Grill at the two for now. I go back and forth whether I think him or Bates will start. For now, I'm going to go Grill. Tonje 3, Carter 4, Vanover 5.
Yeah, I remember we did this long ago, back when we were still on the radio in KCO 88.1 FM. And at the time, we were still wondering, it's like, okay, let's make one with Mosley in the lineup and then make one with Mosley not in the lineup, because we weren't sure if he was going to go pro or stay with the Tigers. Ended up going pro. And I think we can all kind of agree that there are three locks. We even talked about this with Drew when Drew was trying to give his starting five, what he thought would be like the main group of guys that are going to be seeing the most starts. And Dennis changes it up so much. The five we see tomorrow might not be the starting five we see in a month or two. But we can kind of agree that Vanover is starting, Carter is starting, and Nick Honor is starting. And I mean, it's kind of been a toss up for me as well about, who's going to be at that two. I do like Tonje at 3. I think that's, in my mind, that's also a lock. I think that's just with the experience he has and a great season he had at Colorado State and just coming over and just the experience. I think it makes a lot of sense there. That second one, I just don't know. It's just I kind of want to lean Tamar Bates, but I didn't really read much about Tamar Bates and didn't really see many tweets from the basketball reporters. It's also just really early, but I'm just talking about in the preseason. But I think I'm going to roll with Tamar Bates just to be a little bit different.
So you're going Honor, Bates, Tonje, Carter, and Vanover?
Correct.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I really, it's tough because this is the one, like, this is the time as like a basketball fan when I like hate the most, because you're right there and you just want to see them play and you're tired of speculating. But I really don't have any reason to pick anything different than I think what Payton said, other than the fact that I actually think, Dennis being Dennis, I feel like home opener, first game of the year, he's going to give one of his guys coming back a slot in the starting lineup. And I'm also just kind of saying this to be different. I am going to go with the Honor and East backcourt duo to start out the year. I think, that'll just be something Dennis, he said he wants to tinker with it. I think that'll be something the fans will like to see, two familiar faces kind of taking up the ball. I don't really have any reasoning other than that. I would not be shocked at all if it is Caleb Grill. Wouldn't be all that shocked if it was Tamar Bates, but with the way Caleb Grill has been, the attention he's been seeming to get, the way Drew talked about him with his sharpshooting ability, I really think he's going to wind up being, we made the TikTok about it, the guy, and one of the guys for Mizzou men's basketball. So I could see him, I think, taking that over, but I will go Honor East and then the front court of Tanjay, Noah Carter, and Connor Vanover as well. I'm really curious to see what happens. I very nearly put Caleb Brown in this lineup because I just was like, wanted to just be fun. I could see Dennis just being like, you know what, every returner get out there. Then we'll just have the fans, see all the familiar faces. But any other thoughts just like with, who you want to see play, what you want to see from any of the guys, really, returners, newcomers, freshmen, whoever.
Honestly, I think a fun game to play would be who's the number 6 off the bench, because there's that's one thing I think we're worried about, who's going to be the guy, who's going to step up. And when you need a bucket, last year it was either Kobe or Demoy. Who's going to step up and be Kobe or Demoy this year when you need a bucket in crunch time? But the depth on this team is so quality. I love it. I think the bench is going to be super deep. And that can really set Mizzou up for success. The first guy off the bench, it wouldn't shock me if Gates threw us a curveball and made it like Caleb Brown or Kurt Lewis or something like that, even, because we've heard Kurt Lewis could be a sharpshooter for this team as well. I think my pick for that is going to have to be East or whoever doesn't start between Grill or Bates, because I still think Bates and Grill are going to get a healthy amount of minutes.
I like that. I like you brought that up too, Payton, because that's what I was thinking about. It's like, when are we going to see Caleb Brown? Talk of the town, talk of the offseason. When is he going to get in there? And Jack, you said it well too. Maybe he even sees a spot in that front court. And in my mind, it was like trying to think about, can I slip Shaw in here? Can I slip Brown in here into that front court and move Tanjay up to the back court? I was trying to think about it, but I don't think either of those two guys start. I know they're two returners, two forwards that could maybe slip in at some point, but I'm excited to see Aiden Shaw as well. Different mold, different body, bigger guy now, really filling out and getting stronger. And we talked about it for probably 5 minutes about him dunking a weighted ball. This guy looks exciting this year, really filling out.
Go ahead, Payton.
I was going to say on Aiden Shaw, that is like something that could really be an X factor this season, if he can really, because there's so much athletic potential with him. I'm not expecting him to be 100% a finished product this year, but if you could see like some strides made, like maybe he becomes a bit more dynamic offensively, becomes a more consistent rebounder, I think that could go a long way.
Yeah, he was going to be my pick for that 6-man thing. You kind of even saw it a little bit last year. Like they like to plug him in, and even some of those bigger games from time to time. And yeah, you could tell it's not a finished product, but the potential is just so tantalizing. Like it's just ridiculous, the athleticism he has. If he can, develop any sort of a jumper, he's going to be such a weapon in the SEC, which is like a very physical league. And he already has that side down. That's, I think, often the biggest challenge for guys is like adjusting to that physicality. And like it's already there for him. You don't have to worry about that with Aiden Shaw. I'm glad we brought up Kurt Lewis too. Kurt Lewis is like, I watched a lot of his tape. He came from Logan, where Sean East went to, kind of had a similar pipeline there. He's really good. And he also, he was at Eastern Kentucky before that. I think he picked Eastern Kentucky over a couple higher major offers that he had. Went to that mid-major, then went JUCO, has just a very interesting path. And I think he is absolutely a guy kind of similar to East, that he can take over a game. He can shoot the ball really, really well. I think if he makes a similar East jump, he's going to be someone who has to be talked about in this rotation. It's just like you scroll through the roster. It's just so you don't know how they're going to get, like someone is going to miss out and be upset with their minutes, because this depth is just ridiculous in terms of all the guys that they can go to.
Can never have too much depth, and that's like a true statement in a lot of sports. And maybe end of the day, it could lead to some transfers down the road. Great thing to have at the beginning of the season, especially everyone healthy too. Just super excited just to see who's going to be in this mix. And maybe down the line, who's going to be that Caleb Brown last year who kind of, sparked some minutes at the end, maybe the halfway point, maybe in January, who comes in for maybe 6 minutes off the bench, maybe some more defense put on the floor, and excited to see who kind of steps into that role because Dennis has showed that it showed that last year.
And we haven't even, geez, we've talked about just such a deep bench. We haven't even mentioned like guys like Jesus Carolero. The Campbell transfer. I remember Rock M Nation, they have some beat writers that do fantastic work. Matt J. Harris, Mizzou, they do a lot of good work. I remember they talked about how Carolero could maybe step in as like a connecting five. So if you maybe want to get Vanover off the court for a little, a certain matchup lets you keep Carter at the 4 and put Carolero. And we haven't even touched the freshmen. Ant Robinson, Trent Pierce, Jordan Butler, all those guys. We don't even know what they could be yet. We've heard rave reviews about all three. This team has played in perfectly. Last year, you saw it a little bit too, but this year, really, when Dennis has truly started to put his fingerprints all over the team's identity, just positionless basketball. When you were talking about how, Kenny, how you could just push Tanjay maybe into the guard position sometimes, maybe keep him in the forward spots. There's just so much versatility with this roster, so much depth, so many different looks. And I'm sure Dennis is going to be experimenting a lot early on in these games.
Yeah, you said the freshman, I don't think Drew, with what he talked about with Trent Pierce, should go under the radar at all. That's why we highlighted it. I think the kid is going to be fantastic. He fits this perfect Dennis Gates, type of player that he recruited, that he helped recruit at Florida State, guys that he got to the NBA. And Drew said that, they have pro hopes for him. This is not a kid who they expect to stick around in college for 4 seasons. He's 6'10", he's over 200 pounds. It's going to take some adjustments, but he's someone who, again, that 6-man role, I think he has the potential to take that if it really clicks for him in year one. He is a really, really good, and it feels like his build is perfect for a Dennis Gates type of scheme, and and the way he develops players of that kind of play style and build, I think is just very, very exciting. I watched a lot of his tape too last year. I think Trent Pierce is going to be a home run.
I'm glad you touched on that as well. Got to give, a shout out to Drew. Awesome interview. And you guys have shown some support on just what he was saying as well on X. So when I'm talking to you guys, whoever's listening to this, and you go on there and watch some short clips if you don't have time to watch the full interview. Drew knows his stuff. We can't say it enough. That's the guy you want to go to. He puts his life into this team, just covering it. It's his job, but he knows everything about it. And you go check out Drew King whenever you need your basketball information.
Yeah. Payton, do you have anything more? I have 2 quick things before we conclude.
I don't know. Just the Trent Pierce thing is funny to think about because I remember we still weren't for sure what Dennis Gates was as a high school recruiter yet, and that was his first. That was his second commit, if I remember correctly, because Ant was the first one. And I remember being at work, my summer job at my dad's insurance company, just sitting there and seeing the news of the commit. I'm like, oh, I'll go look at this guy, and he was a high-end 4-star. I was like, oh my god! I almost fell out of my chair when I saw Mizzou got a recruit of that caliber. So don't overlook the freshmen that Dennis brought in. These are high-quality players. I think we can all agree that Dennis has an eye for talent.
No doubt. Yeah, and we're gonna put it out, but we have some potentially some of the future talent down the road that we're gonna get a little bit of a perspective on. Just to tease a little bit, we'll reveal as the week goes on. But we have a fun thing for Friday's show.
Just keep an eye out for Friday.
Yeah. Keep an eye out for Friday.
We got a
on the basketball front.
Big show coming.
Big interview on Friday.
Tall interview. Large interview.
It's not Jordan Wilmore. You guys might be thinking big man tall.
Tall Jordan Wilmore.
Interview.
Yeah, he's tall. Maybe plays basketball. Maybe not quite at the college level yet, but might be for a certain Tigers team. Anyway, keep an eye out on that. I have two things. One, I mentioned the award in quick hits that we can do for football for guys who transferred. I had an idea for basketball. I did this last year when I covered this team with the other beat writers. One of the most fun parts about college basketball teams is, the walk-ons, the bench guys. We had the Ben Sternberg moment, a lot of moments. Shout out Ben Sternberg, came on the friend of the show. But we had him when he, hit the shot against Lindenwood. That became a bad beat. That was hilarious. We, of course, have Jackson Francois, who seems to have taken over Ben's role in the social media stuff. Everyone loves a good walk-on thing. I think, guys, we should give a walk-on of the year award at the end of the season. Just who embodies, the walk-on mentality so far. I think it's Dennis who has he has a play, he calls them EGBs, which is energy generating like plays. It's an acronym he uses. It's guys that do that thing. I think we should keep an eye on the walk-ons and give an award, whether it's Mr. Francois. I think the walk-ons are Francois, JV Brown. I think Mabor is a walk-on. Danny Stevens.
I think Mabor is opening as a -120 favorite right now.
Okay.
That's my early pick, because Mabor, I think, this is my sneaky hot take, I think it's possible Mabor gets a few minutes here and there in a couple games, because last year that Tennessee game, he quite literally had a couple rebounds that saved the game.
And a block?
Yeah.
I think he had a block.
So Mabor, I'd just keep an eye out for Mabor. And Mabor is always the one where when he comes in, I do the Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm like, oh my God, there he is. He's 7,000 feet tall. It's Mabor Mayak.
Can you do the Dicky Nut? Do the Dicky Nut after Tennessee.
Let me tell you about an unsung hero, Mabor.
But it's not just about the walk-ons getting on the court. I think it's about the energy they show on the sidelines, is what Jack is saying. And I'm watching some clips of Danny Stevens right now in high school behind me. And I think Danny Stevens could pull out maybe something here. These are coming from
Francois is kind of a tall task.
I think Francois might be the opening winner right now. He was the apprentice to Ben.
Where did you get? Did you say those videos? Who those videos come from?
KHQA.
Okay, I thought you started to say "cut," and because I was brainstorming this idea with friend of the show Callum McAndrew, who proposed that we call this award the Soulja Benny Walk-on Award Walk-on of the Year Award. That's what we should name it after.
I like that.
So yeah, the walk-ons. It opens now. From now on, we will evaluate the walk-ons due. Season starts on Monday. The Soulja Benny Walk-on Award of the Year we will give out at the end of the season. All
right, everyone pick their winner right now.
Jackson Francois.
Preseason favorite.
Jackson Francois.
I'm going to go Mabor.
Okay.
I'm going to go Danny.
All right. I'll make a graphic. We'll tweet the graphic.
JV Brown.
Yeah, I know JV Brown.
He's the only one that got screwed out of that. But yeah, Soulja Benny Walk-on Award of the Year. Do that. All right, last thing. They're playing Pine Bluff. This feels like a jinx if I say this, but I just think it's funny anyway. Guys, when do you think the last time Pine Bluff won a game?
December.
I hope
November of last.
Okay, maybe it wasn't as extreme as I thought. 88-72 over Mississippi Valley State on January 28th.
Oh, that's a conference win.
Yeah, they did have a
Mizzou opponent.
Yeah,
they did have a 5-game winning streak.
I wish I remember that guy that scored.
We thought he was going to transfer to Mizzou.
No, I mean you made that.
Should have went after him.
There's no way a guy from
Mississippi
Valley
I'll pull it up.
That far up.
The Delta Devils.
Yeah, I mean he had their first 17 points or something. But no, I guess my last thought, because Mizzou's going to win this game. I mean, I'm sorry, Arkansas Pine Bluff, but Mizzou's 25-point favorites on opening night. I mean, that is extreme stuff. This is a good tune-up. You got a huge game against Memphis. It's one of the more important games of the season, I think. Getting an early win against Memphis is. But God, I'm so excited. I really do. College football is great. College basketball is what I really fell in love with more at Mizzou. So this is big tomorrow. I'm so excited.
The
That's
the man for Mississippi State you're looking for is Terry Collins. He is a
Yep.
guard. Believe
we
he's
made
still
the
there.
joke that he was the old Mets manager. Oh, good
My
times.
favorite
that
guy-
2022 season.
My favorite mid-major guy that cooked Mizzou, I've got high hopes for, is a Penn guard Jordan Dingle. Do you guys remember that? Were you at the Penn game?
We weren't there. We were in Memphis at the time. Or by then, Kenny
Okay.
was on the way to Knoxville for the Tennessee game.
He dropped like 30 on Mizzou, and he transferred to St. John's. I'm a big Jordan Dingle guy.
Where?
Mizzou fans, that's a deep cut.
Former future Mizzou head coach Rick Pitino recruited him.
That's true. That's unwritten rule lore. See our first interview with Moon Choi.
You had to
details.
be there if you
had to be there.
understood that reference.
We got to get him back on. Maybe with Rick
Mhm.
Pitino. Just because. We can talk about coaching strategy. All right. Anyway, yeah, we're super excited. Mizzou, Arkansas, Pine Bluff. I don't think I said you can watch the game on SEC Network Plus or ESPN Plus. It tips off at 7 p.m. at Mizzou Arena. We will all be watching and tuned in. I'm so excited. Like Payton said, basketball season is just the best. It's very fun. And yeah, now we have our Soulja Benny walk-on award of the year. So maybe people, if you have moments of a walk-on, drop them in the comments or tweet at us, whatever. We'll promote it. Try and get these guys some attention and, make that a bit. But anyway, yeah, everyone go watch the men's basketball game here on Monday. We'll be back. We teased it. Good interview and a great show as always on Friday for you guys. We'll preview the Tennessee game as well for football. But in the meantime, everyone have a
One
fun
last
and
thing,
safe.
Knowlton.
Oh yeah. Do your shout out.
Shout out the two guys that were at a charity golf tournament with my dad and mentioned our show, not realizing they were talking to my dad. So shout
Thank
out
you for
those guys
listening.
if they're listening.
Yeah,
They're
we
in Kansas
appreciate it.
City. You
Yes,
know who
Kansas
you are.
City.
Yeah, you
know who
guys
you
know
are.
who you are.
My dad
Yeah.
said he
Thank
was
you
my
for-
dad.
Thank you for listening. Thank you everyone for listening. We just love to get all the engagement and stuff. It's why we do it. But yeah, anyway, that'll do it for the Unwritten Rule presented by Bet Online. Everyone have a fun and safe week. See you on Friday.